A few years ago, Jon Stewart said, comedy doesn't change the world, but it's a bellwether. When a society feels under threat, comedians are who get sent away first. And we are watching, with the weaponizing of the FCC and the government, we're watching something that feels like it doesn't have a whole lot of precedent, because what Jimmy Kimmel said to get suspended indefinitely, and the people reporting around this don't know if he'll come back, aren't sure he'll come back. And what you're seeing is a reaction to something that is not in the top 100 of things Jimmy Kimmel has said on his program to antagonize Trump and the government. But hours after the head of the FCC said we can do this the easy way or the hard way, you saw something that stunned me. Even as I see that we live in complicated, turbulent times, even as I get scared and sad because people are being assassinated for their opinions, and the people who were loudest complaining about cancel culture that created the movement that we have today that results in something that feels like cancel culture, I'm watching something that for me doesn't have precedent. I know Lenny Bruce was arrested once upon a time for making jokes, but seeing Jimmy Kimmel not have the protection of something as powerful as Disney, because corporate interests in media are filled with such cowardice that you have a situation where not even Bob Iger has the money or the power to stand up to the threat that is presently upon the shores of everyone in media because of how compromised they are by a series of mergers and money interests. And to see Bob Iger show this kind of cowardice and bend a knee again with Trump, not the first time, because what happens here is once you're a coward who's extorted, the bully's going to keep extorting the coward. And when they gave Trump $16 million on something that Stephanopoulos said, they opened the doors now to all of media feeling like it needs to capitulate to a threat. And now you get dangerously close to state-run media. And I will tell you, as someone who descends, grandparents and parents, from a childhood filled with, you can't trust the media, it's all propaganda. I've never seen in my lifetime America in the position it's presently in, where the media is running this kind of scared from power as if we're not a place that one of the chief principles is free speech. And I understand that private businesses don't have to adhere to free speech stuff, but there's no one who can look at what's happening here. You can't look at what's happening here and not say that this is a kind of threat that you have not seen before in the United States, where a comedian gets gone from a late night television show for commentary that, I'm telling you, doesn't pass for the top 100 of the things that he has said on his broadcast that would be offensive to a different political affiliation.
And it cashes in on a threat that was made by the president several months ago after Colbert. It was announced that Colbert would be leaving. By the way, Colbert still has the platform. They made the decision on the show. And some people online are saying he should have Jimmy Kimmel on as a guest, because that would be a wonderful way as a lame duck host to use the platform. But after the Colbert thing happened, the president went to his social media platform and said, Jimmy is next. And now he's kind of reveling in what happened, says Seth and the other Jimmy are next. This cashes in on what was on Project 25, something that during the campaign the president distanced himself from. And now very clearly the FCC is leveraging all these mergers, because the FCC only really controls the networks. But media, the state of media is such that these big networks are either merging with other companies that own these cable conglomerates. So you're not just leveraging the network television, the channels that you can get with your antenna, but also cable cable news, if you see what's happening with CNN and whose potential interests are at play there when it comes to mergers and acquisitions, it's very clear what is happening here. And I think I'm going to like Karen for the first time in my life, because they seem to be really responding to feedback from people that are offended. And I'll put in a call, see if it helps, because this is absolutely wrong. This goes against our First Amendment rights. Even conservative talk show hosts such as Tucker Carlson are ringing the alarm bells right now.
Oh, but you simply can't have, if you're putting things next to each other, someone on Fox last week saying that you should just kill the homeless, which is disproportionately filled with combat veterans.
By the way, there was a shooting at a homeless encampment shortly after those comments, something that the media has not really covered all that much.
But that didn't have a penalty that was substantive.
Not network TV, but owned by Rupert Murdoch, which owns a network channel in Fox. No, there was an apology there, and then that cable news channel in particular is part of the cable news outlets that seem to not really run with the story of what happened in Minnesota either.
Government entities are being weaponized to put pressure in places that threaten principles that I care about deeply, and I was pretty sure that most Americans cared about deeply. I believe that when we talk about the freedom to speak freely to power, that is a core principle in America. And this one seems to have reached people in a way that I'm finding interesting, because now it's not cancel culture you're messing with, it's pop culture you're messing with, right? A lot of people are looking at this and being like, wait a minute, where in that joke that that the head of the FCC is describing as one of the sickest things possible,
and admitting that it's an unprecedented step in doing so?
We're watching stuff that we have not seen before, but the reaction has been very strong. I've been encouraged by a reaction where no matter what your political affiliations, most Americans are looking at stuff, and even if they're gleeful about this, most Americans are looking at this and being like, yeah, this is not the country that the flag that waves in this country is supposed to represent something different than this.
I don't know what's real. I have election results that would probably thumb their nose at that. But I want to also be very clear, like, this is not a hypocrisy of mine. I've always maintained, the First Amendment rights protect you from prosecution and jailing. But if you work for the private sector and you say something offensive, that your employer has the right to do what it wishes. Now, this certainly seems subjective. This seems relatively benign. I'm applying my own feelings to this. But this comes as a part of an agenda and as a part of a threat from the president himself, and they're following through. And there's even the promise of more hosts being taken off of network television that have historically had a go at this administration. And it's a scary time. Especially when it appears to be something so benign.
Did the other late night hosts do or say anything last night after this news came out?
I didn't see late night television last night, which is part of the issue here, right? Some of these people have really been weakened. Maybe another time Disney could have been stronger under these circumstances, but I understand how you arrive at the common sense logic of you have all the money in the world and all you're doing with that money is making more money and protecting more money. So these mergers are important, and Iger and Disney have a huge issue in the modern age. Beyond the merger, they're just not what they were because everything is so fractured, so they're not as strong as they were. But if people like Iger and Bezos and Zuckerberg can't stand up to this, what's the point of having money and power if all you're going to do with it is make more money and bow to power? Like, what is the point?
I mean, making more money is important to them.
Well, it's the most important thing, obviously.
Yeah, and you're also saying that these are private companies, but they're also, in many instances, publicly traded companies that have so much riding on these mergers. I think that's what happened with Paramount, if we see
No, that's what's happening everywhere. He's got everyone leveraged on this one because that is exactly what happens. This isn't about free speech. It's just about accruing more power. That's all it is. And how do you accrue more power? The powerful bow before you. nobody in power wants to fight because there's so much corporate cowardice here on fractured media and media that is now consolidating and needs to consolidate in reaction to got left behind by modern times, got left behind by all sorts of people going independent and is having trouble keeping up because they're run by a bunch of old people who do not know how to attract young people the way Mr. Beast does.
I do hope that this is an opportunity to unite a lot of people that over the last decade took offense to, air quotes, cancel culture and what I would say consequences for things that certain people say. This affects them too, because if you want this to establish a template, historically in this country, especially in my lifetime, the power is like on a pendulum and it shifts from side to side. And you don't want these rules applied to you. And I find it very curious to use the martyrdom of a free speech advocate to be doing these things.
This is extortion, and I don't know very much about extortion, but I do know that once you've allowed yourself to be extorted, you're going to keep being extorted. Like once you've shown that you're not going to fight this stuff, that you're just going to give millions of dollars away in order to protect your future investment, then you're just going to be someone who keeps doing that. This has consumed a lot of people last night. We're covering this because I do believe this one has reached a lot of people. I also see the self-interest in media types talking about this because we're scared. There's just simply fear because of what it is that you see happening. And as I see it happening, I am very grateful that we remain independent. It still makes me scared, by the way, to see everything that I see happening. But I'm wildly grateful that we can remain independent because this is a time where this country feels less free than it used to.